Welcome to this week's Chop the Rock episode. I'm Diana Long with the Little Rock River Market, and our guest chef today is Kevin Shalin, the Mighty Rib. Kevin Shalin, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on. You have such an interesting food blog, and I follow you on Facebook, and I think that they're just a whole lot of fun, and all the questions that you're asking the followers about their food preferences and things. It's just a great way to engage the community at large in conversations about food and their favorite restaurants. And so I thought, this guy surely has to be able to cook some stuff.
I do. I know how to cook.
We love it.
I think a lot of people think I just go eat at restaurants, but that's not the case. I have to do a little cooking at home. Actually, I do a lot. So it's something I've enjoyed doing for many years, and I think I have a recipe here today that people are going to enjoy, and it's pretty easy to do.
Yeah, so we were kind of talking a little bit prior to filming and counted them up, and this is 10 ingredients.
10 ingredients, all easy to find at Kroger or any grocery store around town. And this is going to be a creamy chicken and orzo soup. That's the name of this soup. It's a kind of a cool rainy day outside. I thought it'd be a perfect recipe for today.
It is a perfect recipe for today. So yes, you can find these kinds of items year-round at any of the local grocery stores, but we have every single one of these things here with the exception of the packaged ingredients at the Little Rock Farmers Market when that's in season, so including the poultry.
Yes. All easy things to find, and it's great to support your local farmers.
Absolutely. So, Kevin, let's kind of get started. You also said that like orzo, explain a little bit about that. I've had it before, but I've not used it extensively at home.
Well, there's 2 ingredients in this recipe specifically that I wanted to highlight, orzo being one of them. I feel like it's really an underutilized pasta, and I think it's perfect for soups because, as you can see, it's small, and you can get it on a spoon, and it's just easy. It cooks easily, and it cooks fast. You know, it's going to boil about 10 minutes, and it's ready to go. And I just thought it kind of has that texture of a rice, but it is a pasta.
Right.
And I just thought it'd be fun to incorporate it into this recipe. And chicken thighs is the other one. I think it is one of the most underrated ingredients in cooking. I think chicken thighs are flavorful, and they're easy to cook. You can't screw them up. I grill them a lot when it gets warmer outside. But I thought it'd be perfect to put these in the soup. And for the home cooks out there, they're much cheaper than buying chicken breasts at the store, and I think a lot tastier. So I think they're going to be a really good match in this soup.
I would absolutely agree. In a lot of soup dishes or casserole dishes, anything like that, I will use a chicken thigh. If I'm just going to make a chicken breast and I'm trying to be super healthy, then I will go with the chicken breast. But thighs, I mean, you know how you see a chicken breast and it's likely the size of a plate anymore? That you don't get that with a thigh.
These are small, and you can buy them boneless and skinless, which makes it easy. I mean, they're pretty much ready to go. You'll see we just have to trim a little bit of the fat off in a couple minutes. But other than that, they're just so easy to work with, and the cost is great as well. So
yeah, and if you buy a big package of these and freeze them at home, if you kind of lay them out on a cookie sheet to get them frozen, and then you can just throw them in the freezer. However, they'll thaw a lot faster than a chicken breast just because they are a little bit smaller.
Great point. It's a great point. So should we get started?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, I'm going to put you on work on the stove. If you could add, we're going to be using 64 ounces of chicken broth here.
Okay.
And if you can make your own chicken broth at home, that's great, but I cheat a little bit and I buy the packaged kind. And we're just going to put that in the pot back there and set your pot on high immediately. So we want to get that chicken broth boiling. And one of the great things about this recipe is it really is 2 small cutting boards and 1 pot. So if you're doing this at home, it's really an easy cleanup. And you know, I have 2 daughters, and they love this recipe. They're constantly asking me to make it, and then it's nice about one thing that's nice about this recipe is how versatile it is. I make a big pot of it, and the kids eat it as a snack throughout the day, and I'll also make it for dinner. It's that hearty of of a soup where you can center your whole dinner around it.
And you could add some other things, like if you were trying to sneak in a little bit of spinach to your diet, you could chop up some fresh spinach and sprinkle that in there at the very end.
Absolutely.
And, you know, if you're looking at maybe something a little bit healthier and you don't really want a root vegetable such as a carrot, there seems to me there'd be no reasons why you couldn't put some mushrooms or maybe some additional zucchini or even like broccoli or cauliflower in there.
Absolutely. This is really a base recipe what I'm giving you, but you can add anything you want. Kale would go great in this. People, you know, kale is super popular right now. Highly recommend. I've made lots of soups. Heck, I've probably even put kale in this recipe before. Love cooking with kale. You know, one of the keys with the vegetables is, you see here how I'm cutting them. You want to keep the pieces really small. You don't want anything too chunky because, as you'll see, this is going to cook up real fast, and if these pieces are too big, we want them to get nice and soft and easy to eat. So that's what I'm doing. I'm putting a
good spoon size too.
Yeah.
You don't want to overwhelm.
Yeah, you don't want anything. So
you would like to get a little bit of bite of the chicken and some broth and all the vegetables and some onion in each bite, so you get the full flavor. You got a giant piece of carrot on your.
Yeah. You just don't want anything too big. And look, the pasta is tiny, so we don't want the vegetables to be too big.
Just kind of keep it in a perspective as far as size comparison.
Yeah, and in the formal recipe that I wrote up, I put 2 carrots. As you can see, I'm using 3 today. You can use as many as you want. There's, you know, you can double this recipe easily. You can do anything you want. You can add more pasta. That's what's nice. It's very versatile, and you can make whatever changes you want to it. You can use vegetable stock if you want. I just had an errant carrot fly. So as we are chopping these, I'm about to be done with the carrots, as you can see. And what's nice is, once you're done, you can just throw them right into the pot.
With these super awesome, flexible...
I need these at home.
These are very inexpensive, and they dishwash very well. And then you don't have a spill going because you've got a stiff cutting board you're trying to angle everything down on.
Yeah. So this is zucchini. Again, a wonderful vegetable to use in soups. You know, every time I go to the grocery store, it seems like I just buy a bunch of zucchini and either roast them or
they're great on the grill.
I was gonna say, I love to grill them.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
yes.
They're great.
Just you can even, I have one of those vegetable spiralizers. So when I'm on
do you like them? I've never had one before.
Yes, I do. And
I just thought they were kind of trendy, but you're saying...
No, I got into trying to just cut out, you know, it wasn't like a specific diet, but just trying to be healthy as possible. I like a lot of soups and casseroles and spaghetti, especially in the winter time. And so I started doing spaghetti with spaghetti squash instead of noodles, which was good. And then I got the vegetable spiralizer, and you need to like kind of put the zucchini noodles in at the very end.
Yeah.
But it's great. It has a good texture. It has a good flavor.
I got something else I need to purchase now. Another gadget.
Another gadget. You almost don't notice that you're missing a pasta if you're trying to go low carb or keto or Whole30, one of those kinds of diets. That's all the rage right now.
Well, it seems one of the biggest rage things now is utilizing cauliflower. You know, making cauliflower mash, and I even see them now at the store. You can buy bags of ground up raw
riced cauliflower. Yeah, I've seen that too.
So it's a big deal.
And I do cauliflower mashed potatoes sometimes, just because I'm a big Southern food kind of person, and that's just a healthier option.
Okay, what I'm doing right now, I'm using half of an onion. Again, you can use, I wouldn't recommend using a whole one, that's a little much, but let's just add some flavor to it, and cutting it about the same chop as the carrots and the zucchini. And you notice I'm doing all the vegetables first. Usually what's nice here is that it's going to kind of time up perfectly. So, you know, that broth is going to be getting ready to boil, and I've got all my veggies chopped. That's it. That's the last one. So when the broth comes to a boil, we'll get those veggies, they'll be in there already, and then we'll start chopping our chicken thighs. And once that broth comes to boil, you can just add the chicken thigh pieces right to the broth. So if you see the chicken thighs, as I was saying before, they're very easy to work with. Thin, these are boneless, skinless. You need to, I guess I got to switch. We're done with this.
We're done with that one. Yeah. That's all right. That's our vegetable.
Sorry. So we're gonna. There's just some little fat right here. You don't even need to take that off if you don't want to. It's not a big deal. It's just gonna cook down. But if there's any big pieces, you just kind of want to remove them. So we're gonna be cutting these pieces of chicken, half an inch to an inch.
Bite size.
Yeah, bite size. So
small bite size.
Again,
actually.
It's going to match everything else that goes into the pot. You don't want them to be too big. You don't want them to be too small.
Well, you want the chicken to be small enough that it can cook through in that shortened time frame of the 10 to 15 minutes that you'll cook all of this together. Is that
absolutely correct? And you notice what's great is everything is just going straight from the cutting board into the pot. I mean, It's just really easy that way.
It's easy, and cooking up the vegetables first is what there's a cooking reason behind that as far as being in the broth and getting them ready, but also one of the reasons that you're able to just reuse your knife and have minimal mess is that you've done the vegetables first.
Exactly.
If you were to have cut your chicken up first, you would either need to stop and wash that knife very thoroughly, sanitize it, or get a new one. And so luckily you don't have to transfer that same kind of bacteria and germs from vegetables to chicken as you would and vice versa.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're going to be using one package of this chicken, which is going to be about anywhere from a pound to a pound and a quarter. As again, you can go a little more, you can go a little less. You don't have to put any chicken in there if you don't want to, although I think that would be a mistake. How are we doing on the broth back there? Is it?
Well, I just turned around and we were at a full raging boil, so.
Oh, we are? That's fine.
Yeah, I cut it down just a hair, just enough to keep it from boiling over. But we still have a good rolling boil going.
Good. Well, the thing is, that's a good point as far as that boil. You want to. That's perfect.
Right.
Yeah. Because this chicken is cool. Once it is added, it's going to cool down. It's going to stop boiling for a couple minutes. So I can do that, and we've got 2 more pieces here.
So at home, this is just a tip for people who are watching at home. Obviously it doesn't, you're totally cool with it, but I get kind of weird about touching raw chicken with my bare hands after. I can minimally deal with it, otherwise I have to totally touch it with just utensils. But a guy actually out at Pulaski Tech at the culinary school, a chef, taught me that if you'll just get some cooking grade gloves like they would use in a restaurant, if that kind of grosses you out a little bit, it's the only way I know to put it, then you could wear a pair of gloves while you're doing this, shuck them off. You don't have to worry about your hands not being clean, and in addition to that, it will completely, something it does separates where I guess your hands aren't directly touching it, and it makes that all go away.
Absolutely. I don't have a problem with the chicken, but you're right, a lot of people.
I do, and it's random when it pops up.
All right, the chicken is ready.
Okay.
So you got about a pound to a pound and a quarter of thigh meat chicken. And I like to let that boil for about 5 to 6 minutes. You give it a good stir. I'm going to go over here and wash my hands.
All right, I'm turning that back up. I had turned it down because we were about to boil over. It's a very pretty soup. It's very colorful, smells good. I mean, the chicken, you can already tell, is starting to cook a little bit on those outside edges there.
So one thing you don't want to forget is you definitely want to season throughout the process. So we're going to add some salt and pepper.
I've got your salt here when you're ready
Thank
to trade.
Thank you. Don't over salt it because, like they say, you can't take that back. So
you can add more at the table if it doesn't suit your taste, but
absolutely. So we're gonna go about 5 minutes on this. You can see the the chicken is already white.
We're already back to a boil.
Yeah.
Not quite a rolling boil yet, but
one of the things I forgot is, and this is critical, and it's fine that I forgot it because we can do it right now, is thyme. I love cooking with thyme, and I always put a lot of it in my soups. And if you don't know how to work with thyme, you kind of take this stem here and go against it, and it just pulls right off. Right there. See that?
Perfect.
And you can use a lot of it. I mean, you can't really overdo it with thyme. I think in the recipe I wrote up, I put a tablespoon. You can certainly go a lot more than that,
right,
if you want.
Now, is it important? So some herbs you can just chop them up very finely. This one, you were actually just de-leafing it and using only the leaves, and so this would be important to do that and not chop it up and just have the stems, correct?
Well, you know, you can certainly chop up the stems. You know, the secondary stems you can chop those up real fine, and you don't want a big stem like that in there. How are we doing on there?
We are boiling.
You might want to turn it down just a bit. So you can see this is this recipe in general is simple, and we're not making a big mess, and we're not going to have a big cleanup.
Right.
You know, this is what I call kind of a very standard middle of the week recipe.
Weeknight recipe.
Yeah.
And you know, if you've got a kid that's old enough and you've taught them some appropriate knife skills, and you know, this is something that your teenager could probably put together on their own, or a college student. You know, you don't have to be a cooking pro to make this. You just need to not cut your finger off and set the house on fire.
Absolutely. I mean, more and more young kids and young adults are cooking now more than ever, and soup recipes are a great kind of introductory thing to start cooking, because you can get creative. You really can't screw it up.
Right.
And you know, you can add your own twist to it, just like this recipe. You know, if you don't like thyme, you can put rosemary in it if you wanted to. You don't. There's just so many different things. So many different directions you can go. So we're going to give that a stir.
I can even see during like farmers market season taking maybe some small like grape tomatoes or a very meaty tomato and getting all the moist part out, maybe blanch it for a minute and peel, and then chop up and put some tomatoes in there at the very end.
Absolutely.
And that'd be another great flavor that would go along. It wouldn't, you know, again, you wouldn't want to put the juicy part in the middle, but the flesh portion. And it's a beautiful dish as it is, but the more color, the better.
The more color is great. This is a type of recipe you can open up your fridge and go, I need to eat this. It's ready to go, and I got to put it in a pot. You could put anything in there. You could shred up Brussels sprout leaves and put them in there for something green. But I agree with you. I like the color contrast. So, and a tomato-based broth is always great too. So,
oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to put a little more thyme in here because we have some time. Sorry.
Time to do time.
Time to do time.
That's right.
So that chicken is cooked already.
Right.
I mean, it boils up fast.
So it's just a matter at this point of kind of melding the flavors together.
Correct. And you want to get those veggies. There's nothing I hate more in a soup than hard veggies. You want to get those veggies nice and soft. And I think we're about ready to go. The final step is we're gonna put in about a cup of the Orzo pasta. A little more than that. And sometimes I get crazy and I might even put 2 cups if you want it like really.
Just how hearty do you want it?
Yeah, real hearty. That's going to go right in again. So this will allow to cook for 10 minutes, and it'll also let that chicken cook more, and it'll also let the veggies cook more. So everything will get nice and soft and ready to go.
So while we're waiting, let's see.
Yeah, we want to make sure we're timing it.
All right. You're going to set a timer?
10:40, we'll be ready to go.
Gotcha. So let's talk a little bit more about the mighty rib and kind of how you got into that, and let's talk a little bit too about, and because the mighty rib is online but also on Facebook, and then you've got a radio show on KABF where you talk about food. That's weekly?
That is weekly. It's at 9:30 a.m. on Friday mornings. My co-host Alexia Alishri and I, we talk about food and wine and culture and travel, but it really centers around food. And we talk 30 minutes every week. We've had you on.
You have.
Yeah, and so I do that, and you know, the blog takes up a great deal of my time. I do some freelance writing for onlyinarkansas.com or onlyinark.com. And you know, Facebook is a big thing for me. I try to really connect with the audience via Facebook, but I also do a lot of writing on my website, themightyrib.com. So I got into it about almost 8 years ago now, which is crazy to think about. That's a long time in the bloggers world.
It really is,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it feels like just yesterday on one hand and 100 years ago on the other.
It does. Most bloggers, I think, fizzle out after about 6 months when you realize no one's reading your work, and you thought the whole world would be reading it.
Right.
And you realize that 3 people in your family are reading your blog after the first 6.
Out of obligation.
Yeah. And somehow I got through that phase. I first started writing. I was a sports writer in college, and I wanted to get back into writing. And my wife and I, we took a road trip to Kansas City about 8 years ago, and had some amazing ribs at, back then it was called Oklahoma Joe's. And a lot of viewers will have heard of Oklahoma Joe's, one of the most famous barbecue places in the country.
Gotcha, okay.
And now it's called Joe's Kansas City. But walked into Joe's, and 30-minute wait, I believe, to get barbecue. And then you walk in, there's a big article with Anthony Bourdain, and it was one of the 19 places that you have to eat before you die in the world was at this barbecue joint.
Wow.
So it was just really cool. And the ribs and the barbecue were amazing. I went home and I was like, you know, I think I can start writing about food on a regular basis. I think I could write about it every day. And I got up one morning and went onto one of those free blog sites. And I sat there and I was like, what am I going to call this thing? And I said, those ribs were so inspiring to me. I'm just going to call it the Mighty Rib. And I didn't really, that was it. I didn't think too much of it. And just kept writing every day, you know, flexing that writing muscle, and stuck to it. And, you know, you slowly build an audience. And this was back when I was living in Houston, and then we moved to Boston for a year. And we have been in Little Rock for 6 years now. So, you know, you just slowly build an audience, and people, I guess, trust and respect you after a while. They see your name and face enough, they think you know what you're doing. I hope they feel that way.
I think they do. You get a lot of engagement in what you're putting out on Facebook, and I think it's great that you are regularly asking some interesting, fun food questions. You know, I always like to read the answers that people are posting there.
Yeah. For lack of a better term, the audience really feeds me. They're really what it's all about. I mean, my thing is, I don't want to feel like I'm above anybody in food. I'm just a regular guy that likes to eat and write about food, and I always want to relate to the audience. I don't want to come off as like this know-it-all food critic. I'm not. I'm just a regular guy that likes food.
Happens to be a good writer, so there you go.
Well, but it's very important that the audience knows that they're just a big part of what I'm doing as what I'm doing. You know, they really feed my you know, creativity and the ideas. Today I'm posting something where I'm going to be asking the audience what their favorite small town restaurant in Arkansas is. And I'm going to take those answers. I'm going to make a post. What's yours?
I like Craig's Barbecue.
Craig's Barbecue. I mean, it's probably the most iconic, or one of the most iconic barbecue places in the state. So.
And I grew up, I don't know, like 15 minutes from there, and so
Yeah.
it was a regular part of our.
Do you know, I actually ate there twice in one weekend a couple months back. On the way to Oxford, Mississippi, we stopped there on a Friday and came back on a Sunday and ate at Craig's twice.
Right, and it is such a hole in, like, I remember taking people there for the first time, and I wouldn't let them go in.
Yeah.
I needed them.
But that's the charm. I mean,
Well, they were city folk.
Yeah.
You know? And so I said, I need to get you hooked on this barbecue. Once you eat it, you're not going to care
Yeah.
And then you'll find the inside charming. But, you know, it's very much like the doughs here where the linoleum has worn down to the base of the floor where it's just been walked on so much. And it is part of the charm.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I just wrote about doughs. I wrote this big post. It's been circulating in my mind for a couple months now. It's called 30 Unique Experiences to Little Rock you have to do before you die. Food and drink experiences. And you have to eat at Dough's. I think, you know, that's got so much history and so much charm that I felt like it needed to be on that list. But there's some other great ones too. Eating on the patio at Brave New, eating the strawberry shortcake at Trios.
Oh, so good.
So I wanted to celebrate all those places in one post. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a good one.
Yeah. So there's I saw some exciting food news recently that Cotham's, which is now the only one.
Yes.
Now is open on Friday evening for dinner.
I didn't know that.
Brand new deal. I drive by.
When did that happen?
Just in the last couple of weeks. They have a sign that faces their parking lot, so it's not a front side but a back side sign. And now they're open for dinner. So I challenge you to have a hubcap and then followed immediately by some Mississippi mud pie.
Well, I went to the original Cotham's out in Scott and with a buddy, and we actually videoed it. He ate a quad cap, which is 4 of them.
No.
Yeah, Chef Ken Dempsey. Many of you might know him. He's a barbecue guru. A couple of years back, me and him and a couple other buddies, we went out there and we filmed him eating the quad cap, and he did it. He ate 4, I guess it was 4 pounds of meat, basically. I did a hubcap once, and it felt like I wanted to die afterwards.
I split a hubcap with someone in the past, and really you could quarter it for normal folks.
I love to eat, but my days of being a big eater like that are way past me.
I think just the coolness of the I didn't even know you could make a bun that big.
Yeah.
Obviously you can, but just to see that be delivered out to a table is a pretty incredible sight. And then the other news that I saw, which you probably also saw this one because it was everybody was posting about it, but our friends at The Root are about to start a new place in the same area that's going to be kind of a Mexican food, I think, and so
the name escapes me, but I read about it yesterday. That whole area, you know, they were on the news yesterday as far as that Soma district or neighborhood is just exploding now. There's so many things going in there. So you've got another restaurant by the people from The Root. You've got South on Main, Cora Brewery went in there just the other day. They just opened up. You've got Rocktown Distillery it's
moving into
going to be headquartered there. So and there's new apartments being built. So it's just this really great. Yeah, it's a great neighborhood. I've loved going down there for years now. You know, I'm a big fan of South on Main. I love going to see a concert there. So it's nice to see the neighborhood just keep growing and growing.
It is. Now, I lived over there a long time ago. I like to joke that I moved to downtown Little Rock in this area, in the Quapaw Quarter, before it was cool, back when rent was cheaper than your car payment.
You got to let everyone know that, you know.
And then I lived in Soma before it, and so I feel like I leave behind.
So what's next?
I leave behind a wake of development from the places that
Can you move to Midtown to make my neighborhood
maybe
the property value explode?
Yeah, exactly. No, just kidding about it. It's not.
All right.
Oh, 1 minute. That was good.
1 minute. So the nice thing about this is if it's a little undercooked, you just turn the pot off and that pasta will keep cooking. I actually like it to kind of cook up.
Yeah.
You know, what I do is I'll make a big pot of it in the afternoon and just let it sit there, and the kids will come by and they'll get a bowl and just kind of nosh on it.
Right. So also, I mean, it's going to be so hot that you don't want to take a bite immediately anyhow. So if this is done and we're ready to take it off the fire, I'm just going to set a pot holder. I want everybody to be able to see kind of what this looks like in the pot before we plate it up.
Here, I'll do that.
It smells so good.
So we're going to take it off. It's real steamy.
Oh.
And what you want to do at the very end is add a little heavy cream. I would say anywhere from 1/4 to a 1/2 cup, and it's going to give it just a nice color and
a little thickness.
thickness and make it nice and smooth. And then
Oh, isn't that pretty?
usually just hit it with a little more salt and pepper. You know, you can buy broths that are already salted, but I go the unsalted route usually. And so there you go. Well, I'll show them a little bowl here. So you can see it's got a good amount of chicken in there, and it's got a lot of pasta. And if you wanted even more pasta, you could make it heartier and add another cup of pasta in there. But that's the creamy chicken and orzo soup. Perfect for any time of year. It can be hot or cold. There's no bad time for soup.
Well, I'm tasting this, and here's a spoon for you.
Might need a little salt. Oh.
And so, see, this is part of the reason why you want to cut everything up small. So I can get a bite that has some chicken, a little bit of the broth, some of the zucchini and the carrot, and some onion is in here, all in one bite.
It's pretty hot.
Oh, it is hot.
Yeah.
We'll blow on it for a second. Oh, it smells so good.
That thyme is really good in it.
That's my favorite thing.
Yeah, the whole kitchen here is smelling of it. I love it. You should be okay now.
Oh, perfect.
Nice and creamy.
Nice and creamy.
But not too thick. It's not too heavy.
Yeah, and the orzo really is perfect. I've had it in dishes, but I've not ever cooked with it at home because it's about the size of rice, but it has a much different flavor, like a nuttier flavor almost. And it's a much softer texture in the soup overall than and it doesn't, like, rice sometimes clumps together in a soup in a biteful.
Yeah.
And so this is a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I think people will enjoy it. I hope you make it at home. It's, like I said, it's an easy recipe, and you can get creative with it. And like I said, the cleanup's minimal. There's a little cleanup, but not too bad.
So that's really, really good. So the recipe we will have posted online.
Okay.
We'll post it online, but we'll also post it as part of the show, and so people can get it there. But we'll share this for you. Let's one more time give them how can they follow the Mighty Rib blog. Let's talk about your Facebook page, and one more time about your radio show, so that if people are like, oh, I need to listen to this guy more or read him more, they can.
Well, the main draw is themightyrib.com. That's my website. That's where all my writing goes. The Facebook is popular. You just search The Mighty Rib. And I'm on Twitter, again, at The Mighty Rib, and on Instagram. You got to be on Instagram nowadays. Again, that's at The Mighty Rib.
Right.
And my radio show is called Vive La Vie. It's on Friday mornings, 9:30 to 10 on 88.3 FM.
Very good.
That's all. I think that's all the places to find me. I don't think there's any more. I can't handle any more than that.
You'll have to come back when you grow that list.
Yeah.
We'll cook something else. I think that's a great idea. So.
Sounds great.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is good. We're gonna cut it here. We're gonna eat some soup for kind of a brunch, and y'all tune in next week for our newest episode of Chop the Rack. Thanks for watching.